Alrighty, hello, everyone. We are on time today. We're not on CP time tonight. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I'll give you guys a little bit of time to get in. What's up, Nova? Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on time. You become my favorite troll, I guess. Are you a troll? I don't know, but thank you for being here. And I'll give you guys a little time to file. And I don't have like some cool intro music or anything like that. Maybe I'll get some help with some cool intro music to let the counter start. But I want to talk about today's video. Today's video is something that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. Like, you guys have no idea how many months I thought about this video. And I want to get the right people in here to have this conversation. It's not going to be an open panel. I want to get the right people in here to have this conversation because it's just really important. I don't think that people really understand what it takes to do this kind of work. And I don't think even when you enter into this kind of stuff that you even yourself understand what it means, right? To be a caregiver, right? It's really difficult. What's up, Enya? Hope you guys are doing well. So I have one person in the backstage who's gonna come up, and you might be surprised, y'all. You might be surprised at what this person has to say, because when we typically see these people, we're talking about all kinds of different subjects. But when I look at videos and I look at panels, sometimes you guys say something and I'm like, wait a minute. That's going on in the background, things that you wouldn't even know about, right? And I also have one other friend. She's an educator. She might come up. She's not used to this whole YouTube thing, so she's doing me a solid by being here. Hopefully she'll show up, okay? So with no further ado, you guys, I'm going to introduce to you guys someone that I've met here on the internet. This is No Captivity with Freezy. He's got an amazing, really interesting, heartfelt story about his experience as a caregiver. And I'm going to introduce him right now.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, go ahead and do your intro, man. Go ahead and do your intro. I was trying to practice that intro, man.
What up? This is No Captivity with Freezy. And hold on, what do I say? Wait, this is No Captivity with Freezy.
Yeah.
To heal yourself, no, to free yourself, you must heal yourself.
Mhm.
And I believe that through all facets of life, every day, all day, we gotta go through healing. And I really started holding grab to that more so as a caregiver with my mom. Healing is very important. And I think that no matter what stage of health you're in, uh, that we should always pursue a a certain level of healing. No matter, I don't care if you're feeling like
Where's my camera?
I don't care if you're not feeling sick at all.
Mhm.
I don't care if you're not feeling sick. Healing never stops.
Right.
Between eating right, okay, physical health,
Mhm.
it never stops. The healing never stops. So that's why I came up with that mantra. And
Right.
to free yourself, you must heal yourself.
Thank you. I don't
Yep.
know, something's going on with my camera. I'm a little distracted, but I'm gonna continue unless something goes on. I don't know what's happening. Does it look dark to you?
It seemed like
Right, right?
your hue had darkened a little bit. Yeah.
Right? What happened? I don't know. There we go. You see that light in the background I was telling you about?
Yeah. What happened?
It, it's all. We'll talk about that one day. We'll talk about that one day. It's all about the lighting. People don't realize the lighting in the background has a lot to do with the lighting in the front, and it affects the hue and saturation. So it's like, what's going on? So I had to turn that off right quick. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Right. So let's go ahead and get started. What's up, Enya? Hope you're doing well today. So you guys, I want to have this discussion for a multitude of reasons. One, I want to educate people on what caregiving really is. You might find yourself um, not realizing that this is going to be part of your life. Like, you might give birth to a child, and oftentimes I hear people that have children with special needs, like, they're a caretaker for the rest of their lives, right? And they often worry what's going to happen. Not always, depending on the kid's abilities and things like that, but I also want to motivate and inspire people to let them know, like, hey, here's some things that you can do. Here's someone that you can relate to. Here's someone that's that you can like connect with, right? And so, in addition to that, just bring some awareness to what it is all about. Right. So, yo, Freezy, I'm an interviewer. What's up, high value nurse? Oh, thank you for being here, high value nurse. Gang, gang. Peace to the nurse gang in the house.
High
Right.
value nurse. It's always good to see high
For
value nurses because we know some nurses aren't high value. I ran into a few of them.
Oh,
Trust me.
wow. Okay. Well, we'll get into that. We're gonna get into
Yep.
that. Okay. Well, tell me first, Freezy, right? What started you in caregiving? I know, tell just for the people that don't know you, that are not familiar with this side of your life,
Right.
what was the thing in which the moment in which you realized, wait a minute, I'm gonna have to be a caregiver?
Well, my mom, right? God bless her soul. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 1978, right?
Wow.
So she had been living with this disease for a long time. I graduated in 1994 from high school, and then I went off to college. My mom, up until that point, she was working a full-time job. She was doing okay. She was going back and forth to work. She was being a responsible parent, and she didn't show any signs of that she needed any assistance at the time. So, we went off to school and stuff.
Hmm.
And so a little bit a little bit into my college years, my mom's MS progressed at a very rapid rate. And mind you, my grandmother, her mother had Parkinson's disease and she
Oh,
took care of her.
wow.
So I found out that multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's are like cousin diseases because they debilitate the muscles and the nervous system and all that kind of stuff. So my mom took care of her mother. And it seemed like my grandmother passed in 1995.
Mhm.
So it seemed like as soon as my grandmother passed, my mother's health declined at a rapid rate. Now, I'm assuming that the doctor was right about what he said. It was probably due to stress from her losing her mother and all of those years that she took care of her mother. And just the remorse and the survivor's guilt. Some of us know about that, right?
Right.
So and if you know anything about multiple sclerosis, you know that stress is a very big enemy of it. So my mother declined very rapidly, and to the point where she was debilitated basically. And so I don't want to really get
How
into
old were
detail
you when
about.
this happened, you say?
I was about 18.
18.
Yeah, I was about 18.
Wow.
So my dad was in the house, but my dad was a Rolling Stone, and he didn't really want any parts of taking care of my mom. He had his own separate life going on with other, with other women and all that. He was a Rolling Stone. Okay, he had a gambling problem. My dad was in the streets. So
Mm.
uh I
Do you have brothers
did.
and sisters?
What'd you say, Ann?
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I got a twin brother.
You're a twin, fraternal, like
I got an identical twin brother.
identical twin. Is this really freezing then? Like how
Yeah.
much?
Yeah, I got an identical twin brother and I got a younger brother that's about 5 years
Okay,
younger than us.
okay,
So and all they're all from my mom. Because my dad has another set of twins from
okay.
another woman or whatnot. But he has other kids from another woman. But us three boys are our mother's only kids. So, but so I did manage to pledge Kappa Alpha Psi before I dropped out of college. And I don't really, this is to be honest with you, and this is my first time actually going into detail with this story
Well,
on
thank
YouTube.
you. Thank you
Yeah,
for and share as much
but
as you want. If you don't feel comfortable, like, you just share whatever you feel like you want people to understand and learn about this.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. I feel, I grew a trusting and comfortable relationship with you, and so it's all good.
Thank you.
I don't mess with everybody like that, but yeah. So I was forced to leave school, and because my mother, she was falling on the ground and she couldn't get up. No pun intended, but I used to laugh about those commercials until I realized it was real life. You know what I'm saying? Like that
Yes.
stuff really does happen, and it's very frightening to be in a house by yourself and you're on the ground, and you might be on the ground for hours, right?
Yes, people don't
And
realize I've had patients on the ground for days. Maybe a neighbor or somebody, like a dog was barking, or the newspaper was piling up, and people like, "What's going on?" And this person's on the floor in their own excrement. It's scary, very scary.
yeah, yeah, and the neighbors used to call you. The neighbors used to stop by every now and then. Luckily, my mother kept her door unlocked, and the neighbors could walk in. It might be 6 hours later, right? And I'm still in school.
But
So I just got tired of hearing about those type of episodes, and my mother was crying and she didn't know what to do. She was afraid she was going to have to get put in a nursing home. She was just very nervous and afraid, and she was very vulnerable.
mhm.
So, um, my brothers, my brother, he didn't want to take on the responsibility. He wanted to, stay in college and finish his degree, which I'm not blaming him for that.
Right, it's
That's
hard.
when I realized
His
that's when
goals
I
are high.
realized that everybody's different, and you know what I'm saying? Everybody's different and everybody does not have the same empathy and the same outlook on life, not just towards themselves but towards their loved ones as well. And I'm a very compassionate, very loving person. Quite the contrary of what you guys have seen on YouTube on certain incidences.
Yeah,
Okay?
but don't worry about that. Like, the thing is, people not always like. I think sometimes also, in addition to people, like you're right, but not everyone is capable of taking on this.
Yeah.
Like, just not capable. Like, their heart might be in the right place, but some people just ain't built with the ability to do this kind of thing.
Yeah. So to answer your question, that's when I became a caregiver, when I had to leave college. I had to leave that behind and basically just sacrifice my life for my mom, and at the same time trying to figure out how I was going to live as a man. Yeah, that's a totally different ball game, when it comes to caregiving for a loved one, right?
Mhm,
Because it takes up a lot of your time depending on how bad the patient is.
mhm.
I don't want to call my mom a patient, but I'm just
Right,
medically
yeah.
speaking.
What's going on? Like, some people need a little bit of care, some people need a lot of care, right?
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, so that's when I became a caregiver, and
So
that
so
yeah.
I know she was falling down, but, like, can you take me to the time when you realized, like, I gotta, like, go to the dean and sign out of school, or did you just get on a bus or plane and was like, "I gotta come home. I'm home, mom. I'm gonna take care of you." Like, that moment that you actually decide, like, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. I gotta be home."
To be honest with you, and I just left. I didn't talk to nobody. I didn't talk to the dean. I didn't talk to the school.
You just picked up and left?
I just left. My nerves was bad. I was kind of depressed too because my grandmother was like a mother to me as well. And I just hated this. I just hated to think about my mother going through that every day. And plus she was in a very unhealthy marriage.
Mhm.
And she was dealing with her health, and she was dealing with, her marriage as well at the same time. So I just left.
And you
I
just came
did,
home?
and I just went home. And
Mhm.
as soon as I got home, I gave my mom a hug and I said, "Mom, it's gonna be all right. I'm here for you."
Oh my god.
And that was it. And that was it. So, it was time for both of us to figure it out from there. So
Mhm.
from that point on, I had talks with my mom, and I started going to her doctor's appointments with her to get more informed about what was going on with her health and what is and what I needed to do.
So
You
have
know,
you ever, did you know, like I know you saw your mom caretaking for your grandmother, but did you, looking back on this experience, did you realize what you were embarking on in terms of taking care of her? Because I think that
no,
like
no, I didn't, because when my mother was taking care of her mother, um, we wasn't paying attention to that. We were kids. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
We just felt like she was being a good daughter, and she was being a mother for us. I really wasn't paying attention to the detail of what all she had to do. And to be honest with you and quite candid, I really didn't appreciate what she did, as much as I did when I took over care for my mother. Yeah, when I took over my mother's care, that's when it hit me so hard about what my mother had to go through, taking care of us and taking care of her mother at the same time, and dealing with a tumultuous marriage. So
right.
yeah, I mean, I grew. I always respected my mom. Don't get me wrong,
Mhm,
but when I took over my mother's care, I grew a newfound respect for my mother.
mhm,
I mean, it's just unspeakable, right?
right.
So yeah, I just started. And you can ask me any questions you want,
Yeah, I want to ask
as
you
I
about
as
your
I talk,
sibling.
because I'm gonna tell you something, and I can I have a lot to say about this.
Right. We've been, the thing is, for you guys that don't know, Freeze and I, even before your mom passed, when I first heard, I don't know if you mentioned it on a panel or I
Yeah,
don't know what it was that triggered me to like talk to you because it was before your mom had passed. We
yeah.
wanted to make this video and we delayed it because of what happened afterwards. But I do have a lot of questions. So, if it's just let me know to chill, you know. So you said that you have brothers and sisters. Did they offer any support to help you out while you took care of your mom? Or did you feel like, why is this burden on me? Why I gotta be the one? You got other brothers and sisters. Or did you feel like I don't even mind, here, I'm happy to do it, and your brothers and sisters were able to help you where they could, do what they could.
Well, initially, I didn't even really care about what my brothers were going to do. Now, my sisters were from another relationship from my dad, so they were nowhere around. They weren't in the house. They didn't know my mom like that. Okay, they had their own mother, and they lived in a separate city. But my brothers, they were living their life, right? And I'm very family oriented, and it was a rude awakening that, no, it doesn't matter if people are your family members or how close they are. People have different outlooks on life, and they have different goals they want to reach in their own lives, different
Right.
things they want to accomplish and stuff. They don't look at, I'm not saying that my brothers didn't love my mother. All I'm saying is it wasn't enough for them to say, "Hey, I'm willing to sacrifice my life for her."
Mhm.
And to be honest with you, and I did used to hold that against them. I used to be like, "Dang, you guys can't offer to come in and at least give me 1 day off a week. You can't do that."
How many years were you doing it from the time you were 18 to until how old?
My mother passed away last year,
Sorry.
on July 17th, to be exact. And So I'm 47 now. I just turned
Wow.
47 in January. So
We're seven
last year I
too.
was what'd you say?
We're the same age, 47.
Yeah, I told you we're classmates.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so but so so 40 from 18 to
47.
46, however old that is, that's
Wow.
about 28 years old. I
Yeah.
mean 28
8
years.
years
That's
total.
28 years.
A whole lifetime.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Take care of her.
just to get into detail, right? yeah, I did have some I did have a little vitriol for my brothers because they were showing no signs of that they even cared to relieve my stress. I'm talking about throughout the 28 years. Now, if I would just go out my way and ask them to do something for me, like, hey, could you put some water? Could you put some juice or water in mother's cup for me? Because my hands are tied. They will do something like that. But as far as making a special effort to come to me and say, hey, bro, man, we I want to relieve you today. You know what I'm saying? Because you do a lot, and I know you don't really get a lot of time to yourself. No, I didn't get that. I didn't get that. I
So
didn't get that.
you didn't get to, what about vacations? Were you able to go on any kind of vacations at
I didn't
all?
really go on vacation. I took one trip uh where I was able to get away for a weekend one time in 28 years.
Wow.
And that was because I found out a nurse turned me onto a social worker for the home care company, and the social worker told me, "Hey, your mother has respite care, right? Like
You didn't
like
even
you
know
can
about respite
actually."
care.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And she was like, you can actually call in and schedule a time where, if you want to leave, we'll put your mom in a facility for a weekend and until you come back. I was like, really? I didn't know that. I wish I would have been knew that, right? But I wasn't really
That's
too
important for
fond
people
of.
to know. I want people to understand what respite care is. I'm not gonna disrupt you too much,
No,
but
no, no.
that's
Do it, do
something
it,
that I
do it.
really want people to understand because when we really get into how hard caregiving is, I feel like, when I think about caregiving, I think about like you have this job and you have like, I'm going to be the best caregiver. I'm going to be the best, nurse. I'm
Right.
going to be the best, whatever. But when you get in there, you realize, oh my God, this isn't what I thought.
We're gonna get deep into this, Ann.
We're gonna go into it. And so I want people to understand that these services are available, like, as long as the person is of sound mind and they understand it's just for the weekend, it's
Yeah.
just for a small time that they're coming back home. you know it's a little bit more difficult when someone has dementia or anything like that,
Hmm.
because their new surroundings makes it more difficult. But respite care
Yes.
is really, really important. So it's something I want you guys to take away as you're watching this video on the replay or even watching now. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up,
If
Uncle
you if you are a especially a full-time caregiver, respite care is very necessary for your mental health, right? Because find out, call the person who you're taking care of, whoever they are, call the the front office of the home care agency, ask to speak to the social worker and ask them about respite care because it could be a lifesaver, to where you won't, it could prevent you from going into a deeper depression because everybody needs a break. Everybody
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, you don't have to feel guilty about wanting a break.
Yes,
I've
and
had a
and you know
couple.
what? And that's what it was.
You
I
felt
didn't want
guilty?
I didn't want to leave my mother or go away from my mother at any given time because another thing is she grew so attached to me in my care. She almost became childlike, right? Well, she grew so attached to me and she didn't want to be alone a lot, to herself because she would go. My mother was diagnosed as a manic depression as well.
Oh,
So, she didn't like to be alone a lot because she felt she had these premonitions or she was nervous that something might happen to me. I might get hit by a car or something like that. And she was always afraid that she would lose the only person that was in her corner. And I can understand that, how that can make you, very anxious and stuff. And because it's almost like, your life is depending on this person. The
yeah, your
quality of your life
lifeline.
is depending on this one person,
Yeah,
right? And we'll never really know, how that really feels, not until, but if we're in those
situation.
shoes, God forbid, right?
Right.
But
Right. And that
So yeah.
motivated you. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit later, hopefully, but like I know you have a little side story about how when you had full understanding of this connection, this lifeline connection, how it made you make some changes to your own life to get in better shape and to really like be more
Oh yeah.
spiritual. It really like elevated you because you realize like I'm important here. You know, I there's someone that really desperately needs me. Do you have kids?
No, no, I never had
You
kids.
never had children?
No.
Right. And so, I ask that because oftentimes people, when they have children, they're motivated. For me, I don't have kids either, so we have that in common also. But people are like, why do you go to the gym? You're skinny. And I'm like, my health just isn't for myself. I have to do compressions. I have to lift people. I have to be able to be
Exactly.
healthy enough to take care of these strangers that come in all shapes and sizes that have all different issues. So, well, hopefully we'll remind me to talk to, let people know about your journey as it became, that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, like what we were saying prior,
Mhm.
respite care is very important, you know, for caregivers. Very important. Now I found out late in the game and I really regret that, but it's all good.
You're right.
But so going back to when I first moved back home with my mom, I was going to the doctor's appointments with my mom, um, gathering all the information I could, finding out about her care and what was the do's and don'ts as far as helping her, maintain, you know, her health at the stage she was at then and trying to prevent her multiple sclerosis from actually getting worse.
Mhm,
So she was on injections and I had to learn how to she was on MS injections and I had to learn how to administer those.
mhm.
I think, those were subcubical, like through the stomach.
Yeah, so cute. Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember all you gotta bear with me, I'm trying to remember all these
That's all right.
terminologies,
That's
but
all right. That's all right. So you
yeah,
had to do a little
so
bit of medical education. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So those had to be refrigerated all the time and all and my mom had basically a cocktail of medication she had to take every day. I'm talking about probably about 15 to 20 pills a day at
Right.
different times.
Right.
So um so my mom's multiple sclerosis actually the progression of it subsided for a long time. I
Okay.
started seeing smiles on her faces and all kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And at one point in time, it actually kind of got better a little bit to where um she could actually, you know, push her wheelchair, roll her wheelchair with her arms and stuff just a little bit. And I thought that, hey, we might beat this, even though they never found a cure for
Right.
MS, even
Yeah.
to this day. But I was doing so much research and I learned about the mitochondria and all kind of stuff. I I was reading, researching. I was on the internet. That's how I became an internet, freak because of my mom. I learned how to do a lot of stuff
Wow.
because of my mom.
Wow.
And so the biggest dilemma was how I was going to take care of myself as a man because, I was always taught to be self-sufficient.
Mhm.
And the bills needed help to be paid. My daddy was never a man that worked, kept a job. And my mother was only on Social Security. She had retired by that time. So we needed more money. And I'm sorry. And mind you, at that time, my brother was still pursuing his college degree for pharmacy. And my younger brother, he was still in school. He was still in high school at the time. So
Right.
I'm not gonna lie to you, and I'm just gonna be candid. Uh, I kind of got mixed up,
The
in
wrong
street stuff.
crowd.
Yeah,
We'll just call it the wrong crowd.
I did, because I just
Out of
felt like,
desperation. Yeah.
yeah, I did,
Mhm.
and I did that for a little minute,
Mhm.
and I was trying to keep it from my mom because I didn't want her to worry about me
Mhm.
until you know, it
Women-
trouble hit us head on, and she found out I got in trouble, I got arrested or whatnot, and when I as I was going through my case and stuff, my mother actually cried out to me and said, "You're not gonna be here long enough to take care of me." And I was like, "Why you say that?" "Because look what you're doing," you know? She was crying and she was very, very sad. She was very hysterical and she wanted me to stop doing what I was doing. And so, it was a point in my time where I had to actually, yeah, I just hit a lot of crossroads in my life.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I was trying to tell her, look, we need money. We need money, you
It's a
know?
lot to put on an 18, 19-year-old kid. It's a time in your life when you're trying to figure stuff out. It's a lot.
Yeah, it
It's a
was.
lot.
And, I'm stronger now where I can talk about it, but I used to cry a lot. I did because I was so stressed out, you
Mm.
know? And I did do a lot of things that I regret in the streets. I did. And but I will say that to anybody that's a caregiver out there, you don't have to take that route. You really don't, because there's programs out there that where I found out later on, right,
Mhm.
where uh you can actually get some type of compensation to take care of
Oh,
your loved one.
okay.
There are programs out there where, the one I was in was called the PDO program, Patient Direct Option Program.
So
And that
how
but
long before when
but
you came home, the moment you came home to the moment that you got part of the program, how many years was it? Because it seems like you were navigating this thing in the dark. You didn't even know what options, like you already said you didn't know about the respite, you didn't know about you're over here trying to figure this out. How many years
listen,
passed
I
by
didn't know
before you
nothing.
realized?
I didn't know nothing, and nothing. Okay, and it probably was about 20 years before
Whoa,
I actually found out about the respite program. I mean, not the respite program. Well, actually, it was longer before I found out about the respite program. But it was about, let me say, 20 years before I found out about the PDO program, where I could get compensation. Actually fill out a timesheet and all that kind of good stuff. And
right.
and feel like a productive citizen of
Yeah,
society.
because you're doing 24-hour care. Like people don't realize this isn't like you get to punch out. Like every time they have to use the bathroom, every time they want to eat, every time they want to drink water, every time they want to have their back scratched. Sometimes it's just company. Like we'll get into it more, but it's a lot. Caregiving is a lot,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is. It's a lot. It's a just the word caregiving. Just the word caregiving. It doesn't put enough oomph on it.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They should call it something else. We should make up another word that to make it more dramatic, but we'll just stick with caregiving. I don't think what I was doing was caregiving. I think what I was doing was I don't know. It was like some, I don't know. It was like a movie or something like that, but because I went through a lot, okay? When I was in the streets, like I said, I was around a bunch of um you have to forgive me because I have to gather myself,
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
get emotional
Take your time.
just talking about this or
Take
whatnot.
your time. Take your time. There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let me just while you get your thoughts together, I want you to know that part of the reason why I asked you to do this is because we don't see a lot of men in general. Usually when we talk about caregiving, there's an expectation that it's going to be a girl, it's going to be a woman, things like that. And people are going to be able to relate to you in a way that, just you being yourself, and so I want you to take your time, say what you want to, and, you know, just share what you can.
Let me just say this. I was in a lot of compromising situations when
Mhm.
I was trying to, trying to make an ends to a means, helping my mother out. And I want everybody to understand this. I know what I used to do wasn't right, but not only did I look at, serving for my mother's care, was it physically and mentally, but I also was looking at it on a financial basis as well, right? So I just want everybody to understand and just at least meet me in the middle and don't judge me because
Because the rent still has to get paid. People don't realize, like the mortgage company, the rent company, they don't give a fuck if you have multiple sclerosis, if you got heart issues, they don't
right.
care. They still want their money. You got nothing to do with them. The
And
light, the internet, the food, like the stuff that you need to even care for her. If the
and at
wheelchair
one
breaks
point in time, my
down,
mother at one point in time, my mother only had one source of insurance. She didn't have a what is it called? A secondary,
right.
right? So she had medical bills that were overlapped that we owed. And
Mhm.
she was getting dropped by doctors. She was getting
What?
dropped by yes, she was
What do
getting
you
dropped
mean?
by
Wait. What do
doctors
you mean dropped? Like they just decide to not take care of her anymore? They were like,
because my mother had outstanding bills and stuff.
mhm.
They would let her go and say, "Hey, we can no longer be in control of your mother's care."
Wow, wow.
The medical industry is cutthroat, trust me.
Yeah,
And
wow.
I can't even count how many home care agencies dropped my mother because it's all an insurance thing, right? Like once they feel like the patient is not being profitable anymore and the insurance is fighting them to pay, for the expenses as far as like, the medical supplies and the home care and the nurses and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, sure. Home care agencies will stand in the gap for probably, let's say, after the insurance companies put a halt to, a lot of payments and stuff. The the home care companies probably will stand in the gap probably another month. And then after that, they'll, probably at that time they're conjuring up some notices to mail to your house to say, hey, we can no longer take care of your, Mrs. Brooks or whatnot, blah blah blah. So, but
Wow.
I was just like, so I had to go through finding home care agencies, always finding home is always letdowns, letdowns, letdowns. You know what, Ann? I never told my mom. I never told my mom this home care agency dropped you or
So you
that
kept
home
that
care.
all in?
I kept it all in because I never wanted my mom to feel like she was a burden, right? I never wanted her to feel like she was a bother to me or, it was just too much.
You
They're
tell your
dropping her.
brothers?
What'd you say?
Did you tell your brothers?
No, I didn't tell them. Well, my brothers weren't involved. They didn't want to know. They were
You didn't
living
tell
their own
anybody? Did
lives.
you have a source of someone that you could talk to at all, trying to figure any of this out? Was there anyone? Like you were
Um,
just really walking in a tunnel, like in the dark here, like reaching and trying to figure this
I
out?
was walking in the dark.
Man,
Yeah, I was walking in the dark. I did have a girlfriend, but we were always at well, she's my wife now, but I say I did have a girlfriend.
eh.
But at the time, we were always at, we were young. She had an attitude problem. We were
She
at
had an
at
attitude
odds.
problem? Or
Well, I'm saying, well, I wasn't the smoothest cookie either. But what I'm saying is, we were always,
Yeah.
we always had conflict. We were young,
Yeah.
and so we didn't know what a healthy relationship should be. So I didn't trust a lot of people. Just
Mhm.
like I just told you before the show started, like I don't trust a lot of people. I don't trust people, right? So if you become my friend, that on my end, that says a lot.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. I really like that. That means a lot to me. I appreciate you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, I kept a lot of that stuff from my mom because my mom was already a manic depression, and it was easy for her to just get down on herself and feel like, hey, this is my son. Wow. She already felt guilty that that she stopped my life and all that kind of stuff. And I always used to reassure her, no, you didn't stop my life. You didn't stop my life. No, I made this decision. I love you. You took care of me, and guess what? Now it's time for me to take care of you. That's the way this shit works.
Mhm.
That's the way it works. Everything in life isn't going to be peaches and cream. right? Everything isn't going to go the way you want it to go. Everything isn't going to be perfect. That's why I get so tired of this, just, all these YouTube talking points. Everybody thinks they got the blueprint. All you got to do is this. All you got to do is that. And life doesn't work out like that all the time.
Mhm.
It doesn't. What are you going to do when life hits you slap dab in the face? Do we have talking points for that?
Yes, and it's not just here on YouTube, but it's in real life. I find that even people that are not on YouTube, that, just older generation, or, they have a lot of advice, right? But no follow
Yeah,
through, no real help, no real full understanding of what it takes
right.
for that follow through.
Exactly. And I find myself gravitating to people on YouTube and channels that actually talk, just actually, center their content around real life situations.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying that people can't be successful because, hey, look, I made it out the mud. I really did.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't feel sorry for myself. I don't want people to feel like while I was taking care of my mom, I was sitting around feeling sorry for myself. Soaking, I was soaking in my tears no.
Mhm.
I did what I felt like I had to do. But this show is very important because if you are a caregiver, you don't have to do what I did for all those years. There are programs that you can join, that the social worker of the home care companies know about. All you got to do is sit down with them. They will give you these resources
Mhm.
that will make life easier for you, right? Caregivers, right? Caregivers they have access to psych nurses if you don't have enough money to pay for therapy. Now, I never utilized any of these avenues.
Right,
I never did.
right.
I was self-medicating. I was,
We don't we
smoking. I was drinking. I was doing a lot of that stuff. But
Mhm.
I never did it in front of my mom, and I never made that present in front of my mom.
Right. Were you doing it so you would leave the house and self-medicate and come back
Well, I
home
probably would just go outside the house and sit in the backyard or something like that.
and just smoke and
If
just
my
chill?
mother like, I would choose times to do it, like when my mother was asleep, she
Mm,
taking a nap or something like that.
mhm.
Or like at night. A lot of times my mother didn't go to bed until 4 o'clock in the morning. I would self-medicate until the sun comes up. Don't
Whoa.
get no sleep, and I would schedule a nap because I knew, when my mother wakes up uh that morning, I would have to do what I needed to do for her, give her a bath, cook breakfast, feed her, give her a medication, sit down and talk with her, ask her how she's doing, comment on her favorite TV shows, Wheel of Fortune, Price is Right. Then she would doze off again because she had ate and she feel comfortable because she's talking to her son, her best friend. And then, I would grab me a nap. I probably would fall asleep right there in the chair right next to her bed. A lot of times I remember doing that.
Mm,
So yeah, throughout those years, the only activity I was doing was taking care of my mom. I
right.
wasn't exercising. Like I said, I was living an unhealthy lifestyle. I was doing more so of the cooking for her. I was cooking healthy meals for her, but at the time I didn't to be I'm guilty of not wanting what I was giving her because I was giving her a lot of quote unquote healthy stuff like kale and spinach and
And you was eating
blackberries and
McDonald's on the
blueberries.
side,
Huh?
and you was eating junk food on the side?
Yeah, I was just getting stuff on the go, burgers. I was just getting like fast food and stuff for
Mhm,
myself. But and plus I wanted to ration out the food portions for my mom because healthy food, as you know, healthy food is very expensive. So I felt like I couldn't take part in the food I was buying for her. You
wow.
understand what I'm saying? Because I wanted I wanted to
You
I
want her
wanted
to
to
have
stretch it
that.
out. Because like I said, we were dealing with a financial
Mhm.
situation as well. until things got better for me in the streets, where because it wasn't always bad. Things did get to the point where, where I was making enough money to where I wasn't worried. But by that time, I was just, living like a fat rat, and I had gained so much weight, and I had got up to like 300 pounds. I was like 300 pounds, and um, one day I picked my mom. I was lifting my mom out of the bed, putting her in a wheelchair like I usually do, and I felt this sharp pain in my back, and it was so unbearable, and I buckled and I almost dropped my mom on the ground, but
Whoa.
I was able to uh fall forward with her back to the edge of the bed, and I was able to kind of like lift her, slide her back on the bed, and put her back in the bed so she won't hit the floor altogether. And
Scary.
when I did that, my mom was like, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." I said, "I'll be right back." And I
You
put her in
lying
the
to your
bed.
mom. You know you was hurt.
Yeah, I put her in the bed, and I called my girlfriend, and I told her, "Hey, I think something's wrong." And she was like, "What happened?" I told her what happened, and she came over. And then she actually took over my mother's care for about 2 weeks because I was in the bed. My back had went out on me. And so when my back went out on me, and you know what? That's what made me closer to my wife.
Really?
That is what did it.
Oh,
Because
does your wife know
when
that? That's the moment where you realize like she
I
got
eventually told her that later on,
whoa.
but she didn't know at the time.
Right.
But I eventually told her later on, you know what? We had been together for probably we had been together for a while, for some
Right.
years, but at that time is when I got closer to my wife because I felt like the trust level went to it went through a couple of thresholds that I can't even explain. And for her willing to do that, and just my experience with people that's supposed to be my blood family that would not do that. Right? That meant so much to me.
Mhm.
And so so basically when my back when I was able to, actually walk again and function, and the next doctor's appointment I went to, they asked me, "Hey Fred, we heard about your back." It was a male nurse. His name was Pete.
Mhm.
He said, what are you okay?" I said, "Yeah." I told him exactly what happened. He was like, "Man, you need to be careful, bro." And he was like,
Sounds
"You
like
need
he
to
was
be
a
careful."
brother.
Huh?
The male nurse sounds like he was a brother.
He was Puerto Rican.
He was Puerto Rican?
Yeah, but I had been going to my mother's doctor's appointments for so long. It was a first name basis with everybody. Like
Oh,
my mother's doctor,
yeah.
we call each other to this day. He's white, and he tells me to call him his white dad. Call him my white daddy. That's what he tells me. But I became so close, and they became so close with me. And
Yeah.
you know how the medical field goes. Sometimes certain patients and certain families you get so close to, and
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure they tell you guys not to warn you guys not to get that close
It's
because
hard.
it could get emotional,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so Pete told me, he said, "Bro, you got to be careful. This could be very bad for your mom." I was like, "Why?" I was like, "No, my wife I mean, not my wife, but my girlfriend, she stood in the gap for 2 weeks." He was like, "Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that, her care wasn't as good as yours because you're stronger." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, you're right, you're right." He was like, "Do you know that if your back goes all the way out, your mom could be in danger of going into a nursing home for the rest of her?" I was like, "I ain't even never thought about that." And I was like, "Thanks, man. I'll take that into consideration." So that the next day, I called the gym, and
The
I
next
bought it.
day, it hit you
The,
that hard?
the next day, I got a gym membership. And
Wow.
so I told my mom, "Hey, mom, about an hour to an hour and a half out of the day, I have to go to this gym that I signed up for at least 3 days a week. I'm gonna try to go 4. She was like, "It's okay. It's all right, right? You're coming back, right? You're not leaving me." She used to make little jokes. I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I'm coming back." So that's when
And at
I
that
got
time,
went on
how
my
big were you? You said you were about 400 pounds at that time?
I was a little it was about 300 pounds.
300 pounds at that time?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I went on my weight loss journey and I had to change up my diet, had to leave the junk food alone. And I started buying double on my grocery list that I used to buy from my mom. Me and my mom was eating the same things.
Right.
And it was just like me and my mom became closer. When I tell you it was certain little things that brought me and my mom closer together.
Mhm.
And I used to just eat in I used to fix her plate, feed her, and I used to have my plate right here on the end table. I used to feed her and then feed myself. Feed her and feed myself. That was the routine.
Mhm.
I was working out 3 days a week. Well, first it was 4 days a week for 2 weeks, then I broke it down to 3 days a week. And I'm still working out to this day because of my mom,
Right.
right? So, my whole story is not a horror story.
Mhm.
God works in mysterious ways because there were blessings that came out of the whole situation. Like I'm a healthier person, I'm a wiser person. I have a lot of knowledge. I I was able to at the time because I skipped a lot of stuff. Even when I was in the streets, I did I was productive. I was productive as far as uh self-teaching myself audio and sound engineering.
Oh, okay. So that's what because you were into making music and things like that?
Yes.
Mhm.
So I was able to make enough money to where I was saving up money to buy equipment. And then I opened up on my spare time when I wasn't taking care of my mom, I was taking appointments at home and I was scheduling artists to come in to record or I would mix and master their material. And that's how I was able to be less in the street and make more money at home.
Wow.
You understand
Wow.
what I'm
So you figured
saying?
out how to be an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Not
trying
even
to I was
realizing it.
even though I started out in the street, I didn't I knew it was I wasn't gonna be able to sustain that type of lifestyle and take care of my mother at the same time. So
Right.
what I was doing, I came up with a plan to try to transition all the way from the street to where I could be self-employed at home. And I did it.
Mhm.
I did it,
That's
Ann. Okay.
wonderful. That is wonderful. It's crazy how, like, when your back is pushed against the wall and it seems like there's no way out. Like, when you talk about rationing food and giving your mom one meal, but you eating cheaper meals and you're trying to figure it out, it's hard. But, you know, I don't know. Like, I don't want to. I don't like to say like certain cliche things like, God made a way when there's no way or whatever, because it just doesn't really fully give enough emphasis on how difficult it is trying to figure this out.
Right.
Like when you're talking to me, I really feel like you're in the dark trying to navigate through a maze and there's no lights on, there's no sound, you're disoriented trying to figure this out. But somehow you made it through the end of the maze and you took on like additional senses. It seemed like you learned about medication, you learned about disease, you learned about respite, you learned about entrepreneurship, like it seems like you got more senses, more awareness. And I know you also said it was a spiritual experience for you also.
So now that you mention it, right? What I learned to do throughout my whole journey with my mom, taking care of my mom. Just gonna go down the list on what I learned how to do.
Yeah.
I learned how to um I learned how to administer subcubal shots. I learned how do you say subcubal?
Yeah,
Right.
subcutaneous.
Yes, I learned how to administer those. I learned how to do complete CNA work, right? I learned how to administer IV medications as far as with my mother's infections or whatnot, right? Because she was on a lot of different antibiotics, aggressive, very aggressive, that needed to be given at specific times.
Mm-hmm.
And
This
I
is
didn't
true.
know how serious it was,
Yeah, that's very true. Can't mess
you
around with
know.
the antibiotics. They
Yeah,
have to be
I'm
given.
not an hour before, not an hour later.
Mhm.
No, if you give it, if you're administering it at 6 o'clock in the morning today, you need to administer it 6 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Yeah.
But you have some that's every 24 hours. You had some that was every 12 hours. You had some that was every 6 hours,
Mm-hmm. And
right?
keeping track of it all, and
So
yeah.
she had different IV. I can go on for like 15 minutes just with the IV medications because
Wow.
she had different IV medications. One might have been 24 hours. One might have been every 12 hours. One might have been every 8 hours. One might have been every 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The most she was on at one time was 3,
Mm-hmm.
right? And during that time, they were scheduled at different times. All of them was different times. One was 24, one was 12, one was 8. So it's like, where you
How
get to
did you keep
sleep?
track of it all? Would you use to keep track of it all? Did you use like Google Calendar, or would you write it down? How did you make sure that you didn't like?
Well, I
Would you use
utilize my phone. I utilize my phone alarm. Me and my phone are best friends. With me and the alarm,
it?
we're best friends. You know, I had to because I'm quite the contrary. I'm very forgetful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when you told me about this show, I had to put it in my calendar and set my alarm. I would forget.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so just that within itself is very difficult to manage your own life because like when you think you have a window to get some rest, you remember, hey, I gotta administer this IV. And let me tell you something, it's very detrimental that you administer this IV because it could be a life or death situation. If you skip too many doses, her infection could go into remission and then she could go back into the hospital. And then the bacteria that you were fighting could become very resistant.
Yep.
And now guess what? They have to rule out this IV med that the doctor just prescribed. And now what you're doing is you're eliminating possibilities to alleviate or destroy these bacteria. Now, my mother's infection became very complicated because she developed what you call a superbug, to where the bacteria really never went away. It was
Colonized.
colonized.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people in the chat. I'm probably losing people in the chat,
That's
but
okay. That's okay. That's okay. It's basically, talking. I'm sure they can follow to some extent on how difficult it was and what happens. Like there's consequences. So there's a lot of stress, not just
right,
in caretaking, physically, but like keeping these appointments and managing these medications. And you're not a medical person, so you're trying to figure this out and understanding the importance of the time, the schedule, and if you don't maintain the schedule, there's consequences for her. Yeah,
right.
I get people understand. I'm sure you're doing a
So
great job, Freezy.
Ann, think about that. She had multiple sclerosis, right? Now, the way and the reason why she kept getting infections is because um something happened with her house where we have hurricanes down here.
Okay.
And so she had to be removed from the house, but at the time she had to be hospitalized because she had caught pneumonia, right? She spent only 2 weeks in the hospital. I never forget it, just like yesterday. And I have home nurses that are my witnesses that I'm telling the truth. My mother never had pressure sores under my care. She spent 2 weeks in this specific hospital. And when they were discharging her and when I was taking her home, when I got her in the car, I said, "Mom, did they give you a bath?" She was like, "Yeah, I mean, they wiped me off, yeah." I was like, "Well, I'm gonna give you another bath when you get home because, you stink."
You didn't tell her like that, did you?
Yeah, we talked like that. So when we got home, I took all her clothes off. When I got put her in the room, I took all her clothes off. And when I took all my mother's clothes off, the my mother used to wear adult diapers. It was the same diaper
No,
that she got
no,
admitted into the
no,
hospital with.
no, 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 no. I don't want to. I believe you
What
100%, but I don't want to. I believe you 100%, but I don't want to.
when I took it off, her flesh came off with it from her buttocks. And you could see her bone. You could see
Oh my
her
God, that's a
her
stage 4.
actually they deemed it stageless at the time.
Unstageable? Was it because of
Yeah.
the black F scar on? Oh, that makes my whoa.
It wasn't even a stage. It hadn't even it was stageless.
So there's different. We won't get into that, right? But when they say stages, it's because it's covered over and what's called F scar, like black slough.
Oh yeah, it's black sloth and all that stuff.
So
Yeah.
they can't figure out. It's at the point where they so there's only 4 stages, right? And when it's covered over like that, they kind of say we don't know how bad it is because it's covered over in this like
Okay.
stuff. Like,
You know what?
but
You're right. You're
yeah,
right. So um when I called the hospital and I told them I gave them a verbal lashing and I told them that
you
I
could
was going to
sue.
take what'd you say?
You could sue.
I told them that I was going to take action, but this one I found out a hard lesson about the medical industry and the type of lawyers that they have. Because hospitals are strapped with attorneys. I mean, the best
They are.
attorneys, right? So I called this law firm that was famous for taking cases like that. But I found out when it comes to wounds that that patients develop from hospitals, it's very hard to prove that that patient got the wound from the hospital. Because the hospital can say, "Hey, she already had these wounds before when she got in," or
That's not. Oh, I don't know. So let me just. I'm not to interrupt, but that sounds like I don't know how different
they
hospitals
lie.
are.
Hospitals lie. I'm
Because
telling you.
I was about to say that don't sound like the truth to me because as soon as I had whenever I get an admission, one of the responsibilities is to check the skin head to toe,
Right.
right? And so we check, and there's some key areas, some bony prominent areas that we check, which is your feet, your sacral area, your groin, under your breast. There's certain areas that folds and things like that that we check. And checking the backside, especially for someone that's not mobile, whether it's from Parkinson's or a gunshot wound or whatever. If a person's not mobile, we know you're sitting down a lot and you're at risk for developing what's called a pressure injury. So I
You
don't
know
know if
what?
you're telling me the truth.
I should have pursued it more. But when the law firm sent an investigator over to our house, and they asked me all the questions and stuff, got information, and then when they got back with me, probably about a week later, they said they can't take the case because it's going to be very hard to prove because
Yeah.
they just gave me the whole rundown about the politics with hospitals and
Ooh,
just it's very with their experience with hospitals, it's very hard to prove that when these patients get these
wounds.
egregious pressure sores.
Yeah.
It's very hard to prove, and the amount of time and effort it's going to take for their law firm to really try to prove it. They said it's not going to be worth it because they have they have attorneys on deck for that type of stuff, ready to lie, ready to do whatever to to protect the interests of the hospital.
Ooh.
So
Now you got
we
this
had
additional wound to take care
so
of.
I'm going back to the superbug. Remember the superbug? Remember the infection? My mom used to she started developing a lot of infections. That was why. Because of the pressure sore. And it was on her butt where the feces and the urine, it was
Both.
most likely to
Several.
contact.
Yeah. Yep.
So it was very hard. I had to turn my mother they said every 2 hours, but at one time I was doing it every hour. Yeah, and I want you to just picture. I have to turn my mother. I have to feed my mother. Medication. bath. Uh, uh, okay, then IV medication, right? Whenever she needed it,
Mhm.
right? It
And
was
you all by
very
yourself,
difficult.
no break.
No break, no break. It's by me, just
10
me.
years.
Freezy.
Mhm.
So I I was very depressed. And I used to say, the nurses used to advise me, hey, I think you need psych nurse. You need to see somebody. Because
Mhm.
they started noticing changes in my mood when they come visit the house and all that kind of stuff. Some days I'll be okay. Some days I hardly I didn't even want to talk. I just used to say, hey, let's just take care of mom. They asked me how I don't want to talk. And it was nothing against them. It's just, listen, just
Right.
come, just do what you gotta do.
Mhm.
Right. And I just felt bad. I feel bad. Like when I think about it, I feel bad. But I was in a very bad depression. I had got big. It was just a bad, very bad, for a long time. But the hardest thing was not to show it with my mom. One thing I never did was let it bleed over to my mom. Like, the bad attitude, just me being short. I always felt like that was part of my one of my duties to actually talk to her,
Mhm.
and show her that I care every day, you
Mhm.
know. Even when I didn't want to. I'm gonna tell y'all something. I didn't want to do that shit all the time. Trust me.
Right, right. It's
You
not
know.
easy. You don't feel like
But
it
but
every day.
but,
That's
but I wanted
reasonable.
to, but I wanted to zero in on the superbug
Mhm.
because the superbug that my mom developed was very it was a very pivotal time because that's when the doctor told me, Fred, listen, is a superbug, you can't get rid of a superbug. Your mom was gonna have this most likely until she dies. And he was telling me the complications that come with having a superbug. It's almost like another disease
Wow.
because the bug never goes away.
Mhm.
When you administer the aggressive antibiotic, all it
Mhm.
does is just go, it
It
stops attacking for a second. It goes and run and hide somewhere.
mhm.
It never really gets destroyed or killed. But so now I have that on my conscience. What did I do wrong? My mother got this wound. She got a super bug. And it was because maybe I should have bathed her uh 3 times a day.
Mhm.
It's just like you blame yourself. You're
True.
always blaming yourself. You could have this more. You could have did that more.
Mhm.
So, I don't want to be too long-winded about my life
No,
because let
talk
me
as
tell
much as you
y'all
want.
something out there in the chat world.
Yeah.
I can talk about this all day. But I'm giving you guys the short form and the short story. And if there's anybody out there ghost watching and you're a caregiver, I understand your pain. I understand the difficulty just to be positive about your own life, let alone the person that you're taking care of, right? It's
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let me tell you something. I knew other caregivers. Everybody's story is different. Everybody, like I actually can say I persevered for my mother and I actually pulled myself out financially to where I'm not hurting. I'm not homeless. I have my own home, right? I still have my business.
Mhm.
I'm good. But I did have to do compromising things along the way to set myself up to where I am now. But I just want to say I don't judge people. When I be on YouTube and I hear people talk about, oh, he's a degenerate for doing this and he's contributing. Listen, we don't know people's stories.
Right.
I'm very slow to judge people's life
Mm.
because what I've been through in my life, and I'm gonna tell you something. I don't judge people's life. I don't because you don't know
Yeah.
What were the catalysts and the
Exactly.
extenuating circumstances for
Mhm.
why their life had to take a different route,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I was supposed to been a goddamn computer engineer. That's what I was supposed to be when I left high school,
Mhm.
right? And my brother is a listen, my brother is he's a successful pharmacist. He has 3 beautiful kids. He's married. He has a nice house. His wife is a charge nurse,
Mhm.
nurse supervisor now. I don't even think she works on the floor anymore. But yeah, he has a beautiful life. A beautiful life. My younger brother, you know, he
Right.
has a beautiful life.
Right.
But I sacrificed a lot and I gave up a lot of my own life and I chose to go down that you know,
Is this
that
why you don't have kids? Did you choose actively not to have kids because you
yes,
felt
I
like
did. I did that on purpose because there was no way. I mean, there was I probably could do it, but I just figured out that I said to myself, if I had kids, I wasn't going to stop taking care of my mom, but the finances was going to be even more difficult. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then I wasn't, and then I knew I wasn't going to have kids. I didn't want to have kids until I actually found the person I wanted to marry,
right,
and I just felt like it was more of a it was more of a I want to say a stable, more of a stable situation to where we're actually married, and my wife would be she would be understanding and willing to take on most of the responsibilities with the kids.
right, because you had to
And,
take care of your mom.
yes, and not complain about it.
Right.
And there's not many women that will understand a guy's situation like that. Listen, when I came to YouTube, I started listening. I listened to Tommy Sotomayor. I listened to Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels talk about the high value man, right? Tommy Sotomayor said, if you're not earning a living as a man, you're not a man. You know, you're not this. You're not a man here. You're not a man there. If you're not making this amount of money, right? And I just for a long time I just felt like, man, listen, you know, I was less than a man
Because you were
because of
listening to that rhetoric and you felt
yeah,
like
because I was listening to a lot of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because these guys seem like they were YouTube successful. You know what I'm saying? And you know, these guys they were bragging about, you know, the money they make and it's all a money thing. It's all a money, you know, whatever.
right,
And life is bigger than just money. My money didn't save my mother.
mhm,
You know, money wasn't the primary thing that took care of my mother.
right,
It was love from, you know, and love and consideration from her son.
right,
That's
right, but
what did
money
it. That's what did it.
I agree with you 100%, but money does unfortunately play a big factor.
It does. It does play a
It
big
really
factor,
does in
right?
terms of the insurance and the bills and trying it's just it really, really sucks, you know?
Yeah,
At the
but
end
see,
of the day, you can have money and no heart, and still the person would be destitute, you know what I mean? It's not like it's the end all be all.
yeah, but I'm not saying money isn't a big factor. Money
Yeah,
is a big factor.
mhm.
But money is not gonna get up every I'm sorry, money is not gonna get up every day, uh, uh,
Turn this
uh
every other hour, do
you know
all
what I'm
the
saying?
yeah, yes, of
Money's
course,
not gonna do that. You know,
100% understand
people do
that.
that, you
Yeah,
know.
as a nurse, people like, "Oh, they just do it for the money," and I'm like,
Right.
"Yeah,
Exactly.
y yeah, but it's not about me right now," but I understand that to my heart, I understand that. I wanna ask you a question, I wanna go back to something that, like, a lot of people don't talk about. I wanna talk about, cleaning your mom, right?
Cleaning?
Cleaning,
Okay, go ahead.
'cause you're a male and she's a female, and oftentimes people shy away from incontinence care, you know? Um, do you
This is
remember
a great question.
yeah, do you remember the first time that you had to do it? Did you even feel like you knew what to do? Were you embarrassed about having to, like, be in your mom's you know, for one, you got to be in her private areas, and then on top of it, you're dealing with not just baby urine, and baby is adult urine a lot, adult size poop and things like that. But you know, on top of it all, you want to do it in a way that makes them feel respected, that they're not that's not degrading. So even though the smell and the wounds and all that stuff, I want to ask you, like, first off, how did you learn to take care of that? But how did you as a man, like, how did you bridge the gap in terms of learning how to take care of your mom and making her feel like it was okay, mom, it's okay, mom, I'm okay, mom, you know?
uh, so
And you first have to
very
do
often,
it.
very often when the nurses came to the house, well,
Mhm,
most of the time it was female nurses that came to the house for home care. Every now and then, home care would send a male nurse to the house,
mhm,
but all of them would say the same thing. They would say, "Hey, wow, this is so rare." And and after a while, I knew what they were going to say, but in the beginning, I would be like, "What do you mean that you are a man, that you are a male taking care of your mother?" Like usually when we have house visits, it's usually a female that's in this position. We don't usually see males that take on this responsibility.
mhm,
And first I was like, I don't know why. If you love your mother or your father, why wouldn't you do that, right? But I understand now because of your question you just asked,
mhm,
just going back full circle. So when
mhm,
I first started taking care of my mom, I remember it just like it was yesterday. And when I first had to strip my mom naked and I seen my mother's naked body and I had to give her a bath and actually had to like uh be involved with her in ways I've never and see her in ways I've never seen before,
mhm.
and just actually have to make contact with certain areas of her body that I never wanted to do. When I did it, this first time I did it, I went in my room and I just shed a tear because it was so hard.
Wow.
It was so hard to to uh to take part, in with my mom in that fashion. And
Mhm,
she cried. She cried many days in the beginning because she felt like, she was responsible for me having to do that. She had so much guilt. But I used to tell her, in front of her, I used to be like, "Mom, what are you crying about? It's nothing. It's nothing." But it really, I didn't want to tell her. This was like, it was like devastating. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't want to see my
yeah,
mom like that. I didn't want to touch my mom like that.
right.
So then I understand why most females or daughters will probably feel that position
Mhm,
because they're more familiar with female body parts and all that kind of stuff.
mhm.
The only time I wanted to touch a female was if it was sexually.
Right, right.
No boy wants to actually engage with his mother, like that in that type of fashion. You know. But I was forced to, and guess what? After over time, I got used to it, and she got used to it. She even started talking to me. I knew we were getting used to it when we had started having conversations, even if I'm bathing her, like on her chest area
Mhm,
and in private areas. She would just talk to me, tell me about you know the phone call she might have got, her cousin Sandra or something like that, blah blah blah.
right.
So that's when I knew that we were more accustomed with one another, and she didn't she was comfortable with me because that's what it was in the beginning. She was very uncomfortable and she didn't know how to tell me that, and she felt a lot of guilt that I had to do it.
Mhm,
And the ideal situation was that her husband did it. But he was that's another story. He was so,
right.
he did not wish to take on that responsibility. I'm just try to put it nicely.
Mhm,
And he was very negligent.
Mhm.
So, if he would have stood in the gap, that would have been the perfect situation because I would have been able to I probably wouldn't even got mixed up in the streets as much as I did. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Like
Wow.
that one decision that the decision that my dad made to not want to, be responsible for his wife. If he would have actually, manned up and actually took care of his responsibility, I wouldn't have been I wouldn't have went to the street.
Right. Yeah.
And I did hold, I would be lying to say,
Yeah, you were responsible. It was, he put you in a compromising situation. You're his son.
yeah, I would
It's
be
not.
lying to say I didn't have resentment,
Yeah.
with my dad. But
Yeah.
I learned to mature later on. My faith grew in God, and where I am now spiritually, I'm able to handle, my past more with more strength.
So when you talk about your faith in God, like you touched upon one thing I want to talk about before I get into the spirituality aspect of it.
Hmm.
You know, you've been doing this for over 25 years, right? In the
Right.
house, can't go out, can't move. How were you able to socialize with people? Like, you got these medications you gotta hang, you got to clean your mom. If you don't know when someone's gonna urinate, use the bathroom, you gotta turn her every couple of hours. Like, you're still growing up as a man. So how did you
Right.
learn to socialize in terms of like finding out what's going on out there? Like was the internet your respite sort of your ability to socialize? Like what did you have hobbies? Like what were you how were you socializing yourself?
The only socialization that I did was when I took on clients in my studio
Mm,
and I got to know people through making money. It was still work, but it was like, okay, I love music, so and
mhm,
I loved audio engineering as well. So, I just decided to do something that didn't feel like work, but it was work still, and I was able to make money. So I incorporated my social life with my work time.
mhm.
When you're living the type of life that I was living, you have to kind of mesh a lot of things in together so you can coincide in life. You know what I'm saying?
You never took any trips. You haven't gone anywhere outside of
I didn't take trips like
just
that. Like I
one.
said, I took one trip when I found out about respite care
Right.
over 20 some odd years later. I went to Jazz in the Garden in Miami
Hmm.
with my girlfriend.
Hmm.
I went
Were
there.
you mentally able to enjoy yourself while you were
Nope.
there?
I was just going to go there because actually my wife was like, "Could you put your phone down?" Because I was on the way there, and while I was there and on the way back, I was calling the nursing home, the facility, probably every 2 hours or something. Hey, I'm just calling to find out how Mrs. Brooks is doing. Is everything going okay? Do you guys need any information from me? No, she's okay. Just enjoy yourself. Blah blah blah. Okay. I was just checking. And at one point in time, my girlfriend told me, "Could you please stop calling?" And I was like, "Why? What's wrong?" Because she told me this is supposed to be our time away, and it seems like you're still being a caregiver. I was like, "Well, I am a caregiver." She was like, "No, you're not a caregiver right now.
Mhm,
Okay, please stop." So I had to I we got into an argument, and then, I was just like, "You know what? You're right.
mhm.
Imma stop. I
It's
won't call. I
sometimes
promise I
it's
won't
just
call. I promise I won't call the facility until we're headed back home. How about that?" Okay. She was like,
it's
"Okay."
hard. Yeah, because you can't just if you've been doing something every single day, you have a routine, you wanna make sure that it's, being done the right way, and then on top of it, when you took her to the hospital, you see the results that ends up happening. It probably made you even less trusting of having her go to a facility afterward, I'm sure.
Well, the reason why I don't trust, facilities is because when my mother, when the day when I took my mom home when I discovered her pressure store, Um, I notified the doctor and all of that kind of stuff eventually. I told the hospital, hey, how upset I was. The doctor told me that she has to go to a rehab so they can get a handle on and a synopsis on, the wound so she can get proper wound care. And so at the time I was unfamiliar with wound care. Mind you, remember, like, I'm learning everything in stages. So now I have to do wound care. Well, I have to deal with her wounds. So I didn't want to put her in the facility, but it seemed the doctor made me feel like I was forced to, so she could have the proper care. So while she was in there, I was going every day. I was sitting in her room all day, watching what the nurses do, watching what kind of, paying attention to what kind of care she was getting. And every day I used to ask my mom, "Are you all right?" She always say the same thing: "I want to come home. I want to come home." Are they when I leave, do they treat you well? She was like, "No, no, I want to come home." She just kept saying, "I want to come home." So, um, she stayed in there for about 90 days.
Wow.
And then after a while, I told the nurse that was in charge of her, charge of the floor. I said, I think I'm gonna remove my mom from this place. I'll just take care of her at home. Whatever she needs to do, whatever needs to happen for her care, I'll just make sure it happens at home. And they were like, "Are you sure? We don't think that's safe." And I was like, "No, I could do it because I know everything you guys do. I know how to change your wounds. I've done it with you guys in the room, right? Okay. I learned how to administer IV medication. I know everything. I can do it." It was like, "It's going to be too much on you." Even the doctor was like, "Hey, listen, it's going to be too much on you."
Yeah, this is rare. I'm telling you, it's rare that a person's able to take on all of that. So I understand why they would advise against it because, we've had patients that, like I said, their heart is in the right place, and
Mhm.
they'll say, like, "I know I want my dad to come home." Dad's a big old guy, and
My
dad
mom was a big
falls,
woman too.
right? Or dad falls and they're not able to pick dad up off the floor. So they gotta call 911. The hospital, like, go to rehab. And they're like, "No, no rehab, must come home." And they're really adamant. But when dad falls, no, they're trying. They're trying. No one get him off the floor. So they gotta call 911 and they're back at the hospital within 24 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so I understand, even though, I'm thankful, you've been blessed that you're able to take care of her, but I understand why they probably had that, you know, trepidation about doing it.
Yeah.
It
But
it's not
at
real
the
rare.
time, I just felt like they didn't want to let that insurance money go. That's how I was thinking at the time.
Right, right, I hear you, but it's rare.
Yeah.
Your situation of what you were able to do, it's not common.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that, especially now I do. Especially after what I had, what I was experienced after I took her home, and the wound care was a whole nother thing, it
Mhm,
was just a whole nother situation.
mhm,
But the doctor did make me feel good and told me, "Fred, how long your mother survived after she left the facility, she probably would have passed away sooner in the facility. I'm just gonna be honest with you." He told me that.
mm,
And I just felt so proud. I needed to hear that because I place so much guilt on myself. Anytime something my mom has a setback, I always blame myself. I don't blame anybody but myself because I always felt like there was something extra I could have done to prevent her having this setback. So I took care of my mom all up until she passed away last year. And it was a normal routine. She had been home from the hospital because periodically she would have to go to the hospital because sometimes she would every now and then she would become septic from her wound. Her wound never healed all the way. Now I made a bunch of strides with her wound. Her wound went from, like you said, a stage 4
mhm,
to it went to a stage uh they deemed it a stage 1.
Oh,
That's
okay.
how that's how much I healed my mother's butt sore.
Right,
Her
right.
butt sore was like this,
Yeah, huge.
and it was like you can see the bone.
Yeah, definitely. You can see the bone at that time. You can see muscle, and then like in the area, it's also very difficult to manage because every time she urinates, what people need to understand is that it breaks down the skin. The reason why kids have a diaper rash is because, the pH is different from your skin, so it breaks down the skin. So if the skin is already broken, you're further damaging the skin. Every time someone, when you defecate, those enzymes that break down meat and
Yeah.
food and all that kind of stuff, those enzymes are still inside your stool. So if it makes contact with your skin, it further breaks down your skin. So you have to get it off of there immediately. You got to clean, and then while you're cleaning
Listen,
it, it's bleeding, and it's just a lot.
and that junk will give you bad nerves. Like my nerves were so bad. I think the wound was worse than the MS to me. For
Wow.
it was anytime you have a sore, a
Mhm.
huge pressure sore on your coccyx or your buttocks,
Yep, your coccyx.
whatnot, that is the worst nightmare for any patient or any caregiver, because the attention that's needed for that type of wound is so much.
Yeah.
It's so much. And my life took such a turn when I took my mom home and out of that facility, and took upon her care myself again. Because like I said, I was caring for her before she spent the 90 days. Okay, after she spent the 90 days, she wanted to come home. I took her home. But I had to turn it up a notch. I had
Right.
to turn it up a notch because this is a whole new ball game. So just to fast forward, all up until last year, July 17th, on that specific day, right? I was in her room, and it was just like clockwork. I was feeding her, and let me tell you something. My mother didn't show any signs. Like it was actually a good day. She was talking to me. You know what I'm saying? She was like she was having
Communication.
it was like she was having one of those days where I felt good. I was like, okay, this is gonna be a good day. Her spirits are better than usual. And that's what hit me so hard, because I didn't see it coming. I I was feeding her. I was done feeding her. We talked. We talked about the TV show like we usually do. And I told mom, "Hey, I'm about to go fix me a sandwich." So I walked out of her room, I fixed me a sandwich, and I ate the sandwich, and it probably was about 45 minutes later where I went back in the room to check on her, and she was gone. And she was, I mean, she was just like in her bed, and she had this she had this weird stare. Her stomach wasn't going up and down, and her face, her mouth was open, and she had this stare, and it was just like, oh my God, please don't my heart, it seemed like I just got, like, I don't know, like the anxiety just shot to the roof, and I started screaming my mother's name to the top of my lungs, and I was like hysterical, and so she wasn't responding. I put my ear to her chest. I didn't hear anything. So right then and there, um, I started breathing in her mouth. I lifted the back of her neck up, and I started trying to administer CPR. And I had my phone in the other hand, and I dialed 911. Well, I hit the emergency,
Mhm.
and I had them on speakerphone, and then that's when I was corresponding with them. But I was all hysterical because I was doing CPR at the same time. And I don't want to get too graphic for the people in the chat, but you can tell when somebody's gone, because as I was doing the CPR, she had a lot of blood shooting up out of her mouth. It was coming to my face, and it was all on my shirt. Like it was horrific.
She has some kind of GI bleed or something, some kind of bleed going on. There was
Well,
blood
her
coming out.
later I found out that her organs, her later. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Freezy. It's hard.
Sometimes I just
Take your time. And if you don't want to, you don't talk about it, you skip it. Skip it. You know, just skip it.
no, it's okay. It's okay. It's
You
okay.
know.
I I found out that her organs had been failing for a long time,
Right.
and the doctors were so kind to me, right?
Mhm.
We had developed such a close relationship that they didn't want to tell me.
Mhm.
They didn't want to tell me that her organs had been failing
Oh,
for years.
okay.
They never told me that.
It was
And
probably critical. Yeah.
that's when I found out that she just that was her day. She was gone.
Mhm.
But I think me taking care of my mother all those years, that was the hardest day because that scene was so horrific when I gave her CPR, and it was just so much blood coming out of her mouth and nose, and it was like it was her blood was actually in my mouth too as I was giving her
Wow.
CPR, and it was all on my shirt. And I didn't care because I just kept going trying to bring her back, you know? But
Mhm.
it was very hard because she was just talking to me.
Mhm.
And by the time the paramedics got there, what's that machine called where they
I know what you're talking about. It
I forget
like I know what you're talking about.
defibrillator,
The
it's like a
compression.
fibrillator or something like that?
You're talking
It's
about that it administers electronic, or you're talking about the
chest
one that
compressions,
pulses.
yes.
Oh yeah, I forgot what they call it.
It's
But
very brutal because it can
it's
actually break
very
your ribs and everything.
yeah, it cracks your ribs. It like yeah,
It
it's
yeah,
hard.
and when they were doing it, I was telling them to just stop, because the way it looked so brutal.
Yeah.
I said, "Just stop, please. Please just stop," you know? So they just told me to leave the room. They was like, "We need you to just leave the room and just let us do what we need to do." And, they asked me if we had already signed uh, NDR, a DNR, do not resuscitate, whatever.
Mhm.
And so, my brothers, I told them that if my mother passed away, if my I didn't want them to do resuscitate her, just let her go. But my brothers were saying that no, we want her to be resuscitated. And if or if need be put on life support. I was saying I see, because the reason why I was saying I didn't want to do that because I had firsthand I was a f- I have first firsthand
You
I was
know what it
hands-on with my
is.
mother, and
Right.
I
You know
seen
what it
how
is.
many years she suffered.
Mhm.
Why would I want my mom to stay on life support as a vegetable? No, it's when it's her time to go, it's just her time to go, right? But my brothers, they were not invested with her, so the longer she could live just to make them feel better, that's what they wanted. So it was 2 against 1, and they were trying to bring her back. But by the time I got to the hospital, the chaplain came to talk to me, and I knew then, because when they send the chaplain in, it's over. So yeah, so I just they let me go in her room, and I just was on my knees crying hysterically for hours. For hours. I mean, even my brothers had left, and I was still there. And I felt so much guilt because I felt like maybe if I wouldn't have walked out of the room to fix the sandwich, I probably would have seen something, or seen her drifting away to where I could have called 911 sooner to where she could have gotten to the hospital and they could have done something to save her. But they were
That's
trying to
not
tell me,
possible. That's just you. Yeah, it's just not possible to.
yeah, they were trying to tell me mom was so far gone and her organs were so bad. By the time she would have got to the hospital, it would have been the same result.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to believe that.
Hmm.
I didn't want to believe that because I just felt like I had all the answers for my mom. Because we made it out of so many situations together, me and my mom, me and her, and we broke so many thresholds to where doctors were saying that, hey, this wound is not going to get any better. It was getting better. Doctors were saying that, hey, this infection, it seems she's she's ran through all of these antibiotics. We don't think that she's resistant to almost everything. And then guess what? Um the fruits and the vegetables. Oh, I want to tell everybody in the chat just for to make lighter, just to have a light, just to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
lighten up a little bit because I don't want this to make a doom story.
No, no, no. It's just
Listen,
real. It's an honest conversation.
eating right, right?
Hmm.
My mother was supposed to been passed away,
Hmm.
but the berries, the blackberries and the blueberries, right, and the spinach and the kale that I was giving my mom, it prolonged my mother's life way longer than she was expected to live. And that was coupling that with the antibiotics was
Hmm.
able to actually slow down her eliminating the bug being resistant to different antibiotics.
Right. Hmm.
Eating healthy is better than any medication that the doctor can prescribe to you.
Yes.
And
It's so important.
I wish that my mother would have practiced that before she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis because I dug a lot into my mother's history. I asked my auntie, my mother's sisters, and all of them. I asked them what kind of diet did my mother practice when we guys were younger. My mother used to always eat. Her favorite food was French fries. My
Mm-hmm.
mother was a very big woman.
Hmm.
She ate French fries. Like she would buy a bag of potatoes. I found out
Hmm.
and she bought a French fry cutter, and she would eat French fries all day, every day. So it was just all this grease and
Potato
bad
starch.
starch,
Hmm.
and just she ate like this for years. And that was and also the stress. I mean, the food, a bad diet will increase stress.
Yep.
So stress
It
actually
all.
is, yeah. So it's like a cycle.
Hmm.
Bad food, stress. Bad food, stress.
Hmm.
Eventually, disease will set in. It's gonna come.
Yep. And it's
If you keep,
hard to get out of that. It's hard to get out of that
yes, it
routine,
is.
especially when you are with multiple sclerosis. Your food options are not your food options, your mobility, your dexterity, it's limited. So you try to do things that are quick and easy. It's not easy to be
Yeah,
chopping all the salad and to be picking up these berries. It's sometimes not easy, depending on where you're at in the disease process. So it's hard. It's really hard. And so, like Freezy, I'm sure the chat and anyone watching this in the replay, you know, this was a huge undertaking for someone you wasn't fully developed. 18 years old, no guidance to figure this out, no one to help you. It is a huge undertaking. And the reason why I want to have this conversation is because, like I said, when you left school and you're like, I'm going to be the mom's caretaker, that's a decision. But then when you're actually in it, you don't anticipate, all that it takes. And you don't even know all that you qualify for. You don't, it's just a whole lot. It's the financial aspect, the social aspect, these
right.
wounds, the medication, the turning, the educating yourself on what is this disease. And then on top of it, holding everything in and doing it all so that she doesn't feel the stress of it. It's a lot. It's a
It's a
lot.
lot.
And I want people to understand that people who caretake, they need a break. Don't judge them. Like, I don't know. I'm from a Caribbean family. I'm not sure if you know my family's from the islands, from
Yeah,
Barbados. And very critical. about why you do this, why you're not there. But people are critical about your caretaking when they don't know the whole story, right? And so I want people to understand that when you see people caretaking, ask them if they need anything. Ask, can you help out? Can I bring anything to the house? You know, is there anything that you can, like, when you look back at it, if you were to, you held a lot in, but if you were to advise someone like, hey, ask, you told them about asking for respite, but what about asking family members or other, was there something you would have done differently or that you would recommend people? Like, hey, you ain't got to do it like this. Ask for help, ask for, I don't know what it is. Is there anything you looking back on?
What I wish I would have done differently, and this is for anybody that's caregiving out there. I see Mrs. Brave, I mean see Miss Brave 413.
Mhm,
She says she's currently a caregiver right now. And anybody else that I may have missed in the chat that's experiencing or can relate to the stories, any part of the stories that I've told this evening, I encourage you to not do what I did and try to take on everything and figure out everything on your own for years until you just can't take anymore, or until you just feel like you need assistance. I'm here to tell you that there's assistance out there for you right now. Um, there are resources that that um that can be provided to you to where you can actually uh get paid to take care of your loved one, right? Or if they have options, right? Either your loved one can choose you as the caregiver, the paid caregiver, or the agency can bring in, if you just get burnt out, the agency, your loved one can still stay home, and the agency can send someone to the home for a certain amount of hours a day
mhm,
to take care of your loved one. Probably 8 hours a day or something like that, like a full work shift, right?
mhm,
So I didn't know that, but I'm telling you right now today, if you didn't know it now you know to pick up the phone and call the home care agency and ask to speak to the social worker, and ask the social worker, is there any assistance programs that will enable you to gain compensation so that you can earn some type of living while you're taking care of your loved one, because that's an untold story for caregivers, especially when the care is very demanding like it was for my mother. um I do understand that some people's care can allow the caregiver to be more flexible. Some people can still walk, some people can still do certain things for themselves to where the care isn't doesn't have to be that extensive. But in my case, my mother couldn't even pick up the phone to talk to somebody. If she wanted to talk to her friends or something, I had to stay there, answer the phone, hold the phone to her ear until she's done talking, or put it on speakerphone and put it on her chest. But I would have to stay attentive until she got done and then hang the phone up.
right,
So my mother couldn't do anything,
mhm,
right? She couldn't use her hands or legs or anything. So what I'm saying is that there are programs and there is assistance out there to help for caregivers, right? And also, when you get paid, this is another jewel that I can give out that they won't tell you. When you start getting paid in these programs, there's this thing called uh what is it called? Caregiver. It's something where you know you don't have to pay taxes.
oh, okay,
Exempt. It's like in home care exemption or something like that,
okay,
or
okay,
you don't have to pay taxes. So I didn't know any of this, and
mm,
until the latter years of my right closer to my mother passing away.
mm,
Right? I didn't know any of this. But if anybody is listening, right? You have, they have these programs where you can get paid. Let's talk about respite care. Just like Ann said, I felt, a lot of times as a caregiver, you feel guilty when you take breaks because you feel like you're slacking on care, right? But they have programs where, these home care agencies, they have respite care to where your loved one doesn't have to spend a substantial amount of time in this facility, but it won't hurt for them to go in this facility for, like, I'm gonna just say, uh a weekend to like a week,
Mhm.
like 3 to 7 days. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt your loved one. So seriously consider that, because you're going to need a break. If you don't get a break, you're not able to regroup your thoughts and your psyche, your somebody's going to need to take care of you too.
Mhm.
So now you not only have one person that's
Right.
unhealthy. There's two people in the home that's unhealthy, and we don't need that.
Right.
So I just want to encourage everybody. Hold on 1 second, Ann. One
No
second.
problem. No problem. Yeah, while he's taking care of whatever's going on here, I thank every one of you guys for being in the chat here. And these are the conversations that I'm hoping that we can have more of here on YouTube, because there's a lot that people don't know that goes on. Like, people are out here dealing with real life situations. And, I know we can be judgmental, we can be critical, and sometimes we don't even know what to do. Like, you don't even know, like, how to offer help. Even if you have a good heart and you're like, man, I don't even know what to say. Like, sometimes I feel like we say it's easier to stay away when we don't know what to do. So if you can, don't shy away. Sometimes just spending time with your friend, coming to their house, maybe offering a meal, even offering money. Like, if you have siblings and you know that one person is taking on the bulk of the responsibilities, ask. He was saying that he has brothers. I'm not sure if your brothers ask, like, "Hey, are you good on money? Like, is there anything I can do for you? Like, can I give you $100 to buy some food to like, ask, where can you help out? Like, there's so many different areas that you can help out. Like, the person that's caregiving also needs a support system of their own in order to deliver proper care.
Yes.
So I want people to just like I said, people don't know what they don't know.
Yes.
So
And
just
don't and don't be ashamed to, sign up for, if you need food stamps. Let me tell you something. If you need food stamps or any type of assistance, do it.
yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
because you got to throw out the pride at this point. At that point, when you're when you take on that type of responsibility, you need as much finances as you can get. Anything
Right.
that can help. It's not for you. It's primarily for the patient.
Right.
So, and it's for you. I hate to say patient, but your loved one. I
Right.
just be in my little medical, whatever. But
Yeah.
it's for your loved one.
Mhm.
So food stamps, right? Respite care, uh, uh, um, getting compensation, getting paid to be a caregiver. Talk to your social worker. They have all of this information, right? Um, if they only have one insurance, they qualify for Medicaid
Mhm.
as a secondary. Medicaid is awesome because guess what? I didn't even talk about this on your show yet, Ian. But before my mother got Medicaid, this was another reason why I was very heavy in the streets, hustling and getting money, because adult diapers
I was about
and
to ask you about that. I was going to ask you about, like, you talk about food stamps, that's covered, but people don't talk about all the like the diapers, the compression socks, all the wound care supplies. Those things are expensive. How do
yes,
you pay for that? Like, just the med plans,
very
like every
expensive.
time they poop, you got to take them off, and like
Yes,
it's just, like, it's so much money for those supplies.
you don't understand, you don't know how much money it is until you're faced with it, right? It's so expensive. You damn near have to be a high middle class person if not wealthy, to live to be able to sustain that type of lifestyle.
Mhm.
Like if you're I'm just gonna say if you're on the lower class, if your income is not that much, like my mother was only getting Social Security,
Mhm.
and she at the time she was getting a little retirement money, but it wasn't enough to pay for adult diapers, bed pads, bandages, and just food and um every now and then we needed clean sheets, sanitary. We need to stay because one of the most important things is to stay sanitary. To keep the germs out,
Mhm.
right? And we always had to keep the house cold as well too. Now our light bill is much higher because I feel the need to keep the house cold
Right. That's
because it
all things
eliminates
that I
germs.
normally, yeah, pay
You
for those.
know,
Yeah.
so it's just a lot.
Mhm.
So Medicaid it came to our rescue. Get Medicaid
Okay.
because Medicaid is an awesome outlet that provides resources for medical supplies,
Okay.
right? Like I have pictures on my social media where I'm standing in the living room where I was taking care, the home I was taking care of my mom in.
Mhm.
I have boxes. I had like boxes like stacked up in my living room because we had so many medical supplies and it was a limited amount of storage in the house.
Right.
But I didn't complain because I didn't have to pay for it.
Right. Right.
But before she got Medicaid, I was paying for all of that stuff out of pocket.
Right.
It's very brutal.
Mhm.
So yeah, you know, get Medicaid, right? And you're gonna need in order to qualify for, like to get paid as a caregiver, these are Medicaid. You're gonna need Medicaid anyway
Okay.
because these are Medicaid services. These
Okay.
services are coupled with Medicaid.
Okay.
So yeah, because my mom, she had Blue Cross Blue Shield, but it ran out and they dropped her. So it's just that's one thing that and I'm sure Miss Brave in the chat, and it's probably some other people in the chat have encountered this. You're going to encounter a lot of letdowns and just people dropping drop like insurance companies dropping you, home care agencies dropping you. You're always scrambling to find somebody else that will take you on. You're gonna have gaps where there's no nurses coming to the house, and you're just gonna have to fend for yourself. Like one time, we had Hurricane Charlie come to Florida. We were without power for like about
Whoa.
3 weeks.
Whoa.
And her IV medication needed to be refrigerated.
Oh my God.
So I had to buy ice every day, ice every day. We had no AC in the house. My
Like,
mother
he was doing all this. You didn't reach out to any family members to be like, yo, I need help? Like,
well, her sisters didn't live. They don't live anywhere close to us.
mhm.
One sister lives in Detroit, and her other sister lives in Miami. And to be honest with you, Ann, like the way my mother is, she was so adamant about not bringing that burden over there to them
Yeah,
because
that's one thing I
it's
gotta
not
talk
like they were going to be able to take care of her. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
So what we did, we just toughed it out. We didn't have no AC for about 3 weeks, and I had to keep her medication cold the best I could, and it was just gruesome. But what I'm saying is to make you're gonna have to fend for yourself sometimes. It's not it's gonna be very few far in between, but but in those times you just got to be prepared, right? But the biggest thing that kept me afloat and the biggest thing that kept my mom afloat, and I know this is cliche, and there's a lot, some people aren't religious, but I prayed for my mother We prayed together every night before she dozed off and went to bed. And I read scriptures to her every day. And we had Bible study very often. And I always found strength from God to push forward. So, please find some type of spiritual outlet that's, because a lot of times you're not going to be able to depend on physical people. They're going to let you down, not because they're bad people, but because everybody's life isn't the same, and it's not conducive with yours.
Right.
So your strength is going to have to transcend depending upon maybe your girlfriend or your wife or your brothers, your sisters, your aunties.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna have to go gladiator style.
Mm.
And let me tell you something, Freezy is a gladiator.
Mhm.
That's why very far in between in these YouTube spaces when I done had to like straighten certain people, I be dead ass serious, and like,
I understand. I
you
understand,
understand
but
what I'm saying?
yeah, it ain't even worth it. But I hear what you're saying
Exactly,
because
Celeste. You got to thug it out.
Prophet Celeste, we ain't doing that today, Celeste.
You got to though. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. But listen, let
But
me tell you,
go
Freeze,
ahead.
I understand what you're saying. I'm joking, but I understand what you're saying because I have had multitude of patients like this caregiving thing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, like I said, I'm from a Caribbean family and they're so judgmental. Like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, right? But it is so hard. It is so hard that it takes such a toll, a mental toll, a financial toll, a social toll, a spiritual toll on people. I've had one patient, you know, I won't get into this because I don't want to murk this up. I want people to really focus on what you're saying. But I've seen people sit in their own feces because they don't want to be a burden, right? They had family,
Yes.
but they didn't want to be a burden. When I can't talk about that now because I don't want to break down. These are certain stories that remind me
That's
of
what my mother was doing before I came home from college. And that's why she was crying all the time. Her husband would not help her.
he was in the house and he would let her just sit in there.
Well, a lot of times he would, like clockwork, he would wake up, take a shower, find some fresh clothes and leave and go do it and go, do whatever he was doing. He probably wouldn't come home till 2 o'clock in the morning, dead drunk. And do it all over again the next day. He never stayed home. He didn't want to be home. He didn't want to be confined at home, feeling like he had to take, this was a responsibility. He wanted to live his life, and he didn't even. My dad didn't even hardly work. That's a whole nother story. My
Right.
dad was
Yeah.
this is this side note. Just because your father is in the home doesn't mean he's not a deadbeat. I just want you guys. That,
Mhm.
I don't even know why people haven't even done that show on YouTube yet. We always talk about fathers that's um that's not in the home. There
I
are
had a
fathers
father in
that's
the home. My father was in the home. It don't mean that he was really there, that he was actually doing anything.
exactly,
Like I don't. That's a whole other conversation, Freezy.
exactly.
That's a whole other conversation because it's not just fathers, but it's like family members and other people that are there to collect. Listen, I've had stories. I've had people get taken advantage of because they have the benefits, and the fiance will be there to eat all the food because the person can't get out of bed, and they're unlike yourself who would give all the proper nutrients to your mom and eat the unhealthy food because it was cheaper. People do
Yes,
the opposite. I've had people come to the
yes,
hospital and do the opposite. They're there for the benefits, and they
yes,
will. Like, so there's a lot that goes on.
yes,
A lot that
yes.
goes on. So I don't want to really get
And
into
and
all
then
that.
and then I learned a lot
Part.
about politics. I learned a lot about politics when it comes to the medical field and
Yeah,
hospitals and nurses. It's a lot of politics with doctors and nurses and
right.
just the medical side of the game. It's just,
Yeah,
you know, but
yeah.
red. Shout out to Red Lipstick Vibes in the
Okay.
chat.
Vibes.
She
I saw
said
my
she said it
people.
takes a lot out of you. I cared for my mom. I was her hospice nurse at home. My mental, physical, and emotional states was tested at times. I thought I was dying. Listen,
Whoa.
yes. Let me tell you something. And I think I shared this with you. I'm gonna need therapy. I know I'm gonna need therapy because
Mhm.
I dream about my mom. Like I have these crazy dreams. Like
Mhm.
I have these dreams and they're so real. And it's almost like I have them almost every night
Wow.
where I'm taking care of my mom. Like I'm still taking care of my mom and she's still alive. And it's almost like she's really still alive. My dream doesn't seem like a dream. It seems like it's still real life. So what has increased in my life is anxiety. Like the anxiety in my life has like I get very anxious just when I wake up and when I have those type of dreams and then when I wake up and realize it was just a dream, she's not here, it's like I'm reliving my mother leaving me.
So I have a question. Oftentimes when we think about like your mom, you spoke about her passing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm asking this question in the best way that I can try to. I hope I don't mess this up. Oftentimes, I think that most people would think that it would give you a sense of that chapter is closed. But what
No.
you're expressing now is that the chapter is not closed. You're not having any kind of relief, but it's still
No.
carrying on.
No, I still tear up. Like I said, at one point in time I was having dreams every night. And then it started subsiding to where it was probably 3 times a week, 4 times a week or something like that. But like okay, let me just share you the dream I just had this last night. I was taking care of my mom. My mom passed away. I did CPR. I brought her back to life. I gave her a hug. We cried together, right? And we were talking. And then I woke up and then I realized she was gone again. It's just like a roller coaster ride, right? And it's like I got anxious this morning, right? And I don't like to bother my wife with this stuff a lot because I always want to I want her to feel like I'm strong. Like I'm her protector. I'm protector of this house. I took care of my mom. I can take care of her. Like I'm not. I don't want her to feel like I'm weak. But on the inside with my psyche, it does get very challenging and very hard. And I'm not even explaining it to you how I really feel on the inside, like the way I should be. But reading my Bible,
Here, y'all, fighting this.
it's okay, and it's okay.
Mhm,
Reading my Bible and staying prayed up, it has saved my life
mhm,
because so many days I felt dissociation anxiety. You know, some days I have agoraphobia to where I'm afraid to leave the house because it's like that came from me leaving my mother's room
mhm.
and regretting it.
Sandwich, yeah, just the 45 minutes it took you to make the sandwich, just the
Yes.
mhm,
So every day I'm like shaking these demons off.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, get it together. Get it together,
Yeah,
bruh. You know
yeah,
what I'm
no,
saying?
yeah,
So sometimes, a lot of times I feel less than a man. And I feel like, I shouldn't be having these anxiety episodes. I shouldn't be having this. I shouldn't be having that. I shouldn't be afraid to do this sometimes, afraid to do that. Sometimes I'm afraid to go to sleep. A lot of times I'm afraid to go to sleep because I don't want to dream about my mom anymore. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want to dream that she's alive and then keep having these letdowns when I wake up. 28 years of going through that those ins and outs with somebody that close.
You've been doing it more than you've been alive, more than half your life.
Yes. So it's devastating. It could be devastating.
I'm
And
not dropping the link. No, man, Joe. I'm not dropping the link today.
I have to, I need therapy because, like, for you know what? God is good because I don't have to go back in the streets. And I thank God for that. Because it could have been where after my mom passed, I have to start my life all the way back over financially and figure out what I'm gonna do.
Does all
Right?
the services stop immediately?
Yes. Once they found out the patient is deceased, it's over with. Everything is over.
And so you're
You
left
just have
to
to
just figure out this
you have to
whole
figure out for yourself. But I thought ahead. So, yeah, I didn't get a lot of sleep, during those 28 years, but I knew this day would come and I knew I needed to prepare for it financially. Right? But I just want to tell everybody out there, you know, when you log on to these spaces in these YouTube channels, and God bless Ann for this show. When you sit up here and listen to these, and I'm not talking bad about anyone. I'm not going to call any names, but I'm just saying that,
It's a lot that goes on. We don't know.
yes, when you listen to these, these people that seem like they have it all together and make you feel like you're not doing enough in your life and judge your own life, don't let them do it. Don't let another human being make you feel inferior. Don't let somebody else make you feel that, make you compare your life with theirs. Because I'm here to tell you, there was no way I could be a millionaire taking care of my mother. It was either or. It was either or. And guess what? I would do it all over again. If I had a choice, hey, listen, you could be a millionaire or I would take care of my mother again. So all of this bullshit about money, 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 money. Yes, money is very important. It took money for the insurance companies to you know what I'm saying, to stand in the gap and handle a lot of stuff. But guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Guess what made it possible for that money to be a resource? It was the love that came first.
And I want you to remember that about yourself. I want you to remember that. I mean, as you're going through this, Freezy, and you're talking to the people, I know you're talking to yourself. So I want you to know that when you think that you're less of a man because this didn't happen or that didn't happen, right? You have no idea, Freezy. One, how much you're going to impact people by being so truthful and so forthright. But what you went through, I feel like you need to write a book, right? When you get time, and really educate people on the importance and the facets of caregiving, because I'm telling you, I've had patients that this has caused them to stop eating, taking care of themselves. They succumb to drugs and alcohol because that's the only respite they have. They succumb to self-medicating, basically, and it's just so, you are a testament, Freezy, to standing here and not only being an entrepreneur, but figuring it out. You're holding a lot in terms of trying to figure out, you didn't want to put the burden on your mom, but I want you to know that, and I'm sure in the chat, people are going to be encouraged and inspired by you, but I want you to know that this situation, not many people, Freezy. I'm telling you, Freezy, as a nurse, not many people would be able to make it through this. This is a situation in which people cannot financially deal with it, socially can't deal with it, and it's just a big, and you're always questioning coulda, shoulda, woulda, I wonder if, so I do want you to get the therapy. You're deserving of that. You're deserving to take care of yourself, you know, and you know, if you decide to have a family one day, all love and peace to you, on that journey, because obviously you have what it takes to be an amazing man, an amazing caregiver, and a lot of us on here that make a bag, that make six figures, can't do this type of stuff. We can't do this type of thing, you
Yeah,
know?
but it's a lot of these it's a lot of these people on here talking about making a bag and six figures and seven figures. Miss Ann, they might die tomorrow. You can't take that shit with you.
Mhm,
I done seen the other side of this shit.
mhm,
I done seen the other side. Health is wealth, not money. Health
mhm,
is the real wealth. Your mental health, your physical health.
mhm,
You can't do shit with that money if you in the bed, like you said, you can't even wipe your own ass.
mhm,
You can't even take that pile of money that you made and wipe your ass with it.
mhm.
But we put so much stress on money, money, money.
And I want us to understand the importance of community, because without you, where would your mom have been, Freezy? We got to work on our relationships, you know? It's so important. That's why I want people to understand that you're not alone. I made this video with you made the video, but I want to have the conversation so that people can understand what people are out here dealing with, you know, what people are really, really out here dealing with. I thank you.
No, I thank you, Ann. You made this show possible. Uh, like I said, this was my first time even going into detail. Every now and then, I give a little specs in here and there of my story.
Mhm. I
And
thank you
you're
so much, because it's not easy, especially being a black man, you know, um, not just being a man, but being a black man, because I know what our community is like. I know the smallest little thing you do for your family, that call you names. I've seen it, the doxing and all this stuff. So I, when I tell you from the bottom of my heart that I appreciate you, because this is going to feed into our community.
so
And
many so
yeah.
many years as I was taking care of my mother. My brother had graduated. He
Hmm.
became a pharmacist.
Hmm.
So many years when people in our community used to see us, because I told you we're twins, right? They would
Oh,
say,
really?
"Which one are you? Are you the pharmacist or the other one?" I was always the other one.
Whoa.
You know, and even my brother, like my brother, when we get into arguments and stuff, he would always say, he would say some things that would be hurtful, like, "That's why, you're not successful like me," and he used to say stuff like that. So people are gonna make you feel less than.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in that situation, you're gonna take on a lot of shit that you was not prepared to take on mentally.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna, they made me feel like, I was doing a woman's job. I was just less than a man. I felt less than a lot of times I felt less than a man.
Hmm.
Then I'm in the street. You know what I'm saying? It's just I just, I started buying into, that I really was nothing. And the only thing that actually gave me life was actually being in my mother's room and looking into her eyes. And it always reminded me why I was here, right? So it's not for everybody.
Hmm.
And if you do choose to put your loved one in a facility, right? Listen, everybody's not the same.
Yeah, there's
But I
nothing
want to
wrong.
say this. I do want to say this. If you can help it, if there's anybody in your family that will be willing to take care of your loved one, even if it's not you, work it out. Because that person being home, one thing I can always say with a smile on my face, my mom passed away at the comforts of her own home in her bed.
Mhm.
And that's one thing I can always say I can be, you know, I can hold my head
Right.
high.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So I just want I love all you guys, and I didn't don't feel sorry for Freezy.
Oh no,
Okay.
I'm inspired. Like you, the
Yeah,
tears are just, I'm
this
so
show was not
inspired.
yeah, this
Yeah,
show
I'm
is not for
so,
y'all to feel sorry for Freezer because I'm a soldier.
hey. But
Okay?
I'm so inspired by you. It's just like when I think about like to be honest with you, it's been a while since I hadn't had like decent money. And I'd be thinking like, damn, people are out here going through this. And when I see these little squares, you don't know on these panel discussions, you don't really
Yeah.
know what people are going through, especially when people are out here talking and talking, And so to see someone that's really just so honest, when I think about the burden of Black men, not just being a Black man in America, right? But the expectation as a Black man as a man, to clean your mom, your family members talking down on you. I can't. I have no. My cousin, my actual real life cousin, is in the chat. She'll tell you, I will curse. I will curse you out if I
Right.
realize. And she's gone through some experience too with her mom passing, and the disrespect I have no tolerance for.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking. Yeah, there's a lot going on mentally here,
Mhm.
but I understand that family members, it can be so disrespectful, and sometimes you don't even have enough in you to fight back because it's so fucking
I
exhausting.
didn't. I didn't have enough to fight back. And guess what? My brother is very successful. And the words he used to weaponize against me, it used to hit very hard because the reality was he was successful and I was in the street and I was, well, mostly I was taking care of mom, but a lot of times I was doing stuff,
Right,
I was living savage.
right.
I went from college to savage. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be strong, but you have to have a spiritual connection. My spiritual connection is to the Most High, to Most High God. So, and I'm very versed in Scripture. I have Bible study every Sabbath, and
Mhm.
I know scriptures like the back of my hand. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm strapped. I'm
Right, but just
strapped.
also get the therapy. As strong as you might be, I want you to,
I'm
there's
gonna
still,
do it.
it's in a tunnel. You're like, you don't know what you don't know. You don't understand. Like this journey that you're taking isn't one in which a lot of people have advice for you, and you're still figuring it out. Like I didn't even consider, when you described the whole CPR thing,
Yeah.
reliving that and the dreams. I know I know you're strong, right? Because you wouldn't have made it this far if you weren't. But of course, take time for yourself and seek the
And my
certification.
dad passed away a year before my mom did.
Oh,
So they
really?
they passed away close together. My
Okay.
dad passed away. He passed away because he had now mind you, my dad was very healthy. He was a very healthy man,
Mhm.
and he refused to take care of his wife. My dad was a gigolo. He eventually, found an apartment and was living on his own, and he had his own girlfriend. And he was even bold enough to bring his girlfriend to the house while his ex-wife was, on her sick bed. And I really, really resented him for that. But mind you, this is why you must treat people, you know, decent.
Mhm.
Because my dad, he had a car accident, but he made it out alive. He really wasn't harmed, but he was suing the insurance company. I'm probably giving y'all too much information, but this ends, so it don't matter.
Give them whatever you feel necessary.
Listen, he was trying to sue the insurance company because my dad was,
Trying to hustle.
he was always a hustler, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But the amount of money that they was trying to give him, that they was gonna give him, it was peanuts, and he wanted more.
Mhm.
And so his lawyer advised him in order to get more, he needed to go see a doctor and get diagnosed and have like a procedure that he was complaining about. My dad was complaining about his neck.
Mhm.
So he had some type of minor surgery on his neck.
Mhm.
The surgery was botched, and a couple of days later, his throat closed up on him, and he suffocated it. He suffocated to death.
Whoa.
And his girlfriend, check this. His girlfriend at the time is a registered nurse, and she was kind of like taking care of him after surgery.
Mhm.
But she left to go early that morning before day to go to work,
Mhm.
and she was calling his phone, but he never answered, and she
Oh.
came back to the house and found him dead in the house. But that's when we had to go to the hospital and identify my dad. And so I seen my dad dead on the hospital bed. And that was hard too because mind you, he still lived with us for until we graduated.
Right. Right.
He was in the house. He was just because he wasn't good, he was still in the house. So it
Were
still
they
kind of
always legally married? Did they ever technically get a divorce? Your parents?
they did get a divorce because my mom did not want to get a divorce. She was one of those, she's one of those baby boomer, she's old school.
Never get a divorce, no matter what
Never,
happened. That's your
yeah.
husband. Stay
Even
with
though
him,
he
no
was with
matter
his other
what.
women, she never wanted to get it. She wanted to just be his wife forever. She
No
wanted to
matter
die
the
his wife.
man would allow her to sit in her own stuff,
Right.
and she still wanted to stay by him.
But I told her it was a matter of legality that she gets a divorce. I convinced her the only way my mom ended up I was on the only way I was able to convince my mom to get a divorce. I told her, listen, if you pass away before I do, your your ex-husband who got his girlfriend right now, they gonna move into this house. And then they're gonna take the property. And
Wow.
then she was like, okay, go ahead and do it. And I
Wow.
and I and I and I started the process.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I
Well,
was so
listen, this
my
woo.
mom passed, I was able to, rent that house out
Mhm.
and, try to, get some income for that. So that was a blessing too.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but it's split between me and my brothers because just
Yeah.
because I took care of my mom, she's gonna treat all of us fair and equal and everything. But yeah, like I said, it was just so ironic that that happened to my dad.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up dying before my
Before.
mother, and
Right.
he was riding his bicycle every day. He was very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. Wow.
So both of my parents are gone. It's just Freezy and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Wow. Freezy, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I know like you were trying to condense it and the people that are listening, it's hard to go through 28 years of retelling
Yeah.
all that, trying to figure out all that you learned and stuff like that. But, you know, I'm I'm sure people have been. I know Miss Brave 413, she's saying that she doesn't feel like she's by herself. And I know the replay is going to be powerful. So I don't want it to be this sad sad thing, but like
Right.
there's like real life when that intro that you have, I know where it comes from. I have a better idea of where it comes from because this thing called life, it's going to set you up with things that you didn't even expect. And even when you say yes to certain things, it might be so difficult. You might be in over your head. Right. And I hear that a lot more and more. I hear that with like when you left school to do this caretaking, you didn't even know what was going on. I hear that with your mom and she got married to her husband, didn't realize what kind of a man that he was going to eventually be for her. Right. Not realize that she caretaked herself. And then when it had to turn back to her, it was still difficult. So we never know. None of us know what's going to happen. So I want us to, support one another. I'm going through something right now with my mom, and my family has been amazing, has been
That's
really, really
awesome.
amazing, and it's going to be, I'll talk about it one time more, but it's still like all happening right now. And so you taught me stuff also, Freeze. I want you to know that, even though I'm a nurse, right? I deal with patients at the hospital where I can call services. Why I wanted to have this conversation is because when you're at home, people don't know what to do. You don't know what to ask for. You're by yourself. How do you do this? And so, even though we didn't really touch on, how it inspired your weight loss journey because of your back injury and how you lost was it 100 pounds you lost?
I lost over 100 pounds. I lost like
Over
110
100
pounds.
pounds
Yeah.
because you were so focused on taking care of your mom. It inspired you to lose over 100 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's a hard undertaking. That's a hard undertaking. And
And
so what I did
it was all because of her,
all
you know?
because of her. You said it was
Yeah.
spiritual. It brought you closer to God.
Yep.
You know.
It brought me closer to God, and it made me it gave me more wisdom too. And it made me look at life different. And it made me not judge people,
Mhm.
you know, and have these preconceived notions about people just you know just from looking at them from the outside,
Right.
their condition. You never know, you know, people's backstory.
Mhm.
You never know, why they are in the condition that they're in. People have a story to tell.
Mhm.
But that's why I always respect everybody, and I demand respect for myself because I got disrespected so much during those years.
Mm.
I don't even take that shit no more, and I do not tolerate disrespect, and it's
Mhm.
for good reason. Like
Right.
I'm tired of that.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I'm
And don't
saying?
swing too far from like when you get therapy, don't go from one extreme to the other. Find a balance.
Okay,
And
okay.
therapy will help you find a balance because I myself suffer from that. My mom is a big personality, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty typically, historically, I'm pretty quiet. And then I swung the other way. I was saying no just to say no, just to exercise the option because I never, when you are in a Caribbean family, you can't even show your facial expression can't even show disapproval. And when I realized that I could say no, I was just saying no to say no, just because I wanted to, just because I never had the option before. You know what I mean? And so then you got to find balance because
Yeah.
but everyone, all of us, every single one of us, we have a history, we have our culture, we have our, our makeup, our all these different things. So I thank you so, so much for sharing this. And if
Thank
there's
you.
any last words that you want to share with anybody, and I'll close out.
Yeah, I
When
want
you
to say this.
yeah, and take your time. There's no rush. Take your time. I mean, I just don't want to belabor, feeling. I don't want you to feel like you're rushed.
Well, I've said enough already, but I do want to say this. And thank you so much for inviting me to your channel. I know this not gonna be the last time. You know you my dog. And
Thank
and
you.
and 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 I want to tell everybody in the chat. And y'all don't know.
Mhm.
And got history on YouTube and got a video with 1 million views. And you need to start flexing. They don't know.
Yeah, those are old videos, but I'm
It
working
don't
on
matter.
making more
Listen, it
content.
don't even matter. You still got it. It's
Thank
got you got it. So
you.
y'all need to understand who and been doing this shit. And another thing is this. Uh please, this video, I really want to encourage everybody in the chat and all of the people that's not in the chat that's ghost watching. Could you please do us a favor and share this video? If you have a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, please share this video
Yeah.
because it could help somebody.
Mhm.
This video, it not only did the video cover medical information, but it also covered um below surface information as well that you wouldn't get, or somebody would probably be reluctant to share with you guys.
Yeah.
Please share this video.
Absolutely. I don't ask
Okay?
that of my subscribers much, but for there's certain videos that I absolutely agree with you 100%. Please go ahead. Even if you send it privately, send it on
Yeah.
whatever platform. You guys are welcome to cut this and take pieces of it and share whatever part of the story. This is something that we want to provide to the community. To anyone going through this, we thank you. Yeah, definitely, definitely, absolutely. I 100% agree with you there.
And if you want to see Freezy outside of Mrs. Ann's platform,
Yeah.
come to my channel. No captivity with Freezy. All right. And
Yeah.
y'all, it ain't gonna be all of this manosphere talk, all that stuff. Listen, I'll be on some real stuff, okay?
Yeah.
No captivity with Freezy, and y'all come hang out with your boy. And I love all y'all. Thank
All
y'all.
right. Thank you guys for sharing this. Freeze. I hope people got to see a different side of, because you mentioned it a couple of times, seeing why you got into the entrepreneurial things that you got into and how this all happened. And I wish
Yeah.
nothing but love and peace and success for you, Freezy. I'm
The only
telling
hey,
you,
listen,
I wish
and
nothing but
the
amazing.
only way they're gonna know about Freezy is if they come to your channel and click on this video. That's it. Because I'm not telling this story no more.
Oh,
That's
I
it.
hear you. I hear you, and I thank you for blessing me with this opportunity to be the one, because I know you've been on huge platforms. So I thank you for trusting me with this information.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation. And I don't really know where to end. I'm not like some I'm not eloquent sometimes with my words, and I'm not like a professional at this, but we'll get it together. But I hope that you guys can feel and understand where we're coming from. We're two amateurs on here just trying to have a real conversation with our
For
community,
real.
with this conversation that's not easy, things that people don't talk about, and do it in a respectful manner. Do it in a manner that you guys can really understand and break it down in a way that you guys can feel, see. Like you were very, very, very vivid with talking and very, very honest. And I to my core, I thank you. I really, really thank you for that. You know, with that being said, you guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you in the back chat. All right. Take care, you guys. Bye.